The Karate Kid movies ranked can be tough to narrow down as the franchise spans 6 films, including sequels and a remake. The Karate Kid introduced Daniel LaRusso, Ralph Macchio, and his karate sensei best friend Mr. Miyagi, Noriyuki Pat Morita. 1986 is The Karate Kid Part 2, and 1989's The Karate Kid Part 3 soon followed, and Morita then headlined 1994's The Next Karate Kid alongside a new co-star, Hilary Swank, who played Julie Pierce, Mr. Miyagi's second student. 16 years later, the Karate Kid brand was resurrected for a 2010 remake that starred Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. However, just as crucial to the Karate Kid movie's enduring success was Cobra Kai, Daniel's enemy dojo, which returned, along with LaRusso's teenage rivalry with Johnny Lawrence, William Zabka, in a critically acclaimed TV series that began on YouTube Red and concluded on Netflix. Cobra Kai cemented the Karate Kid's legacy and inspired a new generation to rediscover the films. This even led to the rebirth of the movie franchise with Karate Kid: Legends. While Karate Kid movies have varying levels of quality, they continue to stand the test of time, and one is unequivocally the best around. The Next Karate Kid was the final film to star Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi, but without Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso. Also known as The Karate Kid Part 4, future Academy Award winner Hilary Swank was introduced in her breakout role as Julie Pierce, a troubled Boston teenager who Mr. Miyagi takes responsibility for. It's also the first of the Karate Kid movies, not directed by John G. Avildsen or written by Robert Mark Kamen. The plot involves Mr. Miyagi learning that Julie Pierce, the granddaughter of his late World War II Army comrade, already knew some Miyagi-Do karate, so the sensei decides to continue her training and teach her important life lessons. The Next Karate Kid also stars Michael Ironside as the villain, Colonel Paul Duga, and Walton Goggins has a small role as one of the Alpha Elite, the film's stand-ins for Cobra Kai as bad guys. Despite the charm of Miyagi and Julie's relationship, and the athletic gusto Swank brought to her role, The Next Karate Kid features characters that aren't very well fleshed out and includes increasingly absurd stakes. The film culminates in a predictable brawl between the Alpha Elite, Julie, and her boyfriend Eric McGowan, Chris Conrad, which mimes the beginning of The Karate Kid Part 2. The defeated Alpha Elite turn their backs on Colin Dugan, just like the Cobra Kai did to John Kreese, Martin Covey, in the second Karate Kid, and Dugan is humiliated by Miyagi the same way Kreese was. The Next Karate Kid does introduce an interesting new element of Buddhist monks whose monastery Miyagi takes Julie to for training, but the monks are played for comedy instead of deepening the audience's philosophical understanding of Miyagi-Do karate. The Next Karate Kid was a critical and financial failure upon its release in 1994, but there is still enjoyment to be found watching Mr. Miyagi train Julie-san while lamenting that boys are easier. The Karate Kid Part 3 was released in 1989, and it was the final and easily the worst chapter of Daniel LaRusso's movie saga. Fresh from a summer in Okinawa with Mr. Miyagi, the young Daniel LaRusso returns to Los Angeles and finds himself embroiled in a diabolically ridiculous plot by John Kreese and his best friend, multimillionaire Terry Silver, Thomas Ian Griffith, to ruin LaRusso's life and force him to defend his karate championship in order to bring the Cobra Kai dojo back to prominence. Daniel-san's relationship with Mr. Miyagi is tested like never before, and he even abandons his sensei as LaRusso briefly joins Cobra Kai before he comes to his senses. The Karate Kid Part 3 has a similar ending to the original film, but this time, Daniel's predictable triumph lacks the same impact or exhilaration. The biggest issue with The Karate Kid Part 3 is Daniel-san himself. LaRusso has never been more temperamental, irrational, and unlikable, and Macchio, who was 28, was obviously too old to still be playing 18-year-old Daniel. The mustache-twirling villainy of Terry Silver is entertainingly over the top, which is part of why his return in the Cobra Kai series is welcomed. His scheme against LaRusso, however, is nonsensical. Equally cartoonish is Daniel's new rival, karate's bad boy Mike Barnes, Sean Kanan, who engages in a level of harassment against Daniel and his new platonic female friend, Jessica Andrews, Robin Lively, that should have called for police intervention. The biggest issue with The Karate Kid Part 3 is Daniel-san himself. LaRusso has never been more temperamental, irrational, and unlikable, and Macchio, who was 28, was obviously too old to play 18-year-old Daniel. However, Pat Morita reliably brings a great performance as Miyagi, who silently mourns how far Daniel-san has fallen before he saves his pupil once more. The audience appeared to begin to be tiring of the Karate Kid movies by the release of The Karate Kid Part 3, which grossed a disappointing intake. It took 30 years for Daniel to make his comeback thanks to Cobra Kai. 50 years after Jackie Chan's The Karate Kid reboot, Sony brought the franchise back in an unexpected way, following Cobra Kai's success. Karate Kid Legends brings the entire franchise together by utilizing Chan's Mr. Han and Ralph Macchio's Daniel LaRusso. They are not the stars of the movie, though, with the movie shifting its focus to a new character, Li Fong, Ben Wang, a teenager from Beijing who moves to New York, who restarts his kung fu training to participate in a local tournament. Karate Kid Legends does not reinvent the franchise formula entirely, as it leans into familiar tropes and plot points that have been featured in the previous 5 movies and Cobra Kai. There's a young teenager with martial arts skills, a local school, bully, an overly aggressive dojo, and a big tournament at the end. This can all make Karate Kid. Legends feel too similar to what the previous movies have done, as it doesn't stray too far from the setup that audiences have come to expect within this universe. Yet there are still some fresh and exciting developments to enjoy. Li Fong is a great new lead for the franchise, and Wang's performance, both emotionally and physically, is impressive. The movie even appears ready to flip the franchise on its head by having Li train an older man in kung fu. That's a fun switch up that helps Karate Kid. Legends stand apart until the narrative takes a turn to make it Li's turn to fight, bringing in Mr. Han and LaRusso to be his mentors. If Li Fong is the Karate Kid franchise's future, it will be in good hands. Those expecting a great crossover will likely be disappointed, especially when it comes to the limited roles for Han and LaRusso. Their scenes together can be effective, but it also feels forced at times. What the movie lacks in its ability to properly bridge the universe together, it makes up for by introducing a likable new lead who is quite formidable as a fighter. If Li Fong is the Karate Kid franchise's future, it will be in good hands. Released in the summer of 1986, The Karate Kid Part 2 admirably wasn't a clone of the original. Instead, the focus shifts to Mr. Miyagi, who is accompanied by Daniel back to his hometown in Okinawa to visit his dying father. The visit also reignites his lifelong rivalry with Miyagi's former best friend, Sato, Danny Kamakona. LaRusso also gets an appealing new love interest in Kumiko, Tamlin Tomita, and an unforgettable new enemy in Sato's nephew, Chosen, Yuji Okumoto. The Karate Kid Part 2 revealed the origin of Miyagi-Do karate and increased Daniel-san's martial arts abilities, which culminates in a brutal fight with Chosen that irreversibly escalated the level of violence of the Karate Kid movies beyond the controlled confines of karate tournaments. The Karate Kid Part 2 isn't the equal of the first movie, but it deepens the friendship between Daniel-san and Mr. Miyagi, while also introducing crucial new elements to the mythos. The film was shot in Hawaii, which doubled for Okinawa, and yet it's strange, but convenient for LaRusso and the audience, that despite being back home, Miyagi and Sato exclusively converse with each other in broken English instead of Japanese. Through love story between Daniel and Kumiko doesn't quite live up to the lyrics of the film's chart-topping theme song, Glory of Love, by Peter Cetera, which was originally intended for Rocky IV. But LaRusso's animosity with Chosen has palpable danger and life-or-death stakes. The Karate Kid Part 2 was an even bigger box office success than the original, earning $115 million worldwide, which made it one of the highest-grossing films of 1986.